Let's talk about Philips. It's a Dutch healthcare, consumer, lifestyle and lighting company.
Yeah, I think everyone knows Philips. It's listed principally in Holland, the Netherlands, but it maintains a very active ADR on the New York market, where it is seen as a sort of a European recovery play. But it's repositioned itself as a sort of a healthcare company, as Bronwyn says, lots of medical devices in there.
Market cap here is $24.5 billion, PE of 37.3 and a dividend yield of 3.5%. Philips is one of those stalwarts in the industry.
It's not bad, 37%. It's not bad, and you still get dividends. So
37 PE.
37 PE. You can't complain with that. But here's my short of it as well, which is something that perhaps maybe not a lot of people know, is that the technological advance that Philips has done, the fact that they build machines that actually are automated to work within the mining sector. And in actual fact, if you look at their relationship, not just in South Africa, but in Australia as well, these big mines, how their technology is advancing that, and they're making a lot of killing on that alone. So that, for me, tells you that it's very diversified. If you talk about pharmaceutical, talk about machinery and engineering, and then you talk about Philips, the televisions, so a very well diversified company, and they're very strong in terms of delivering performance.
Paul, do you hold this one for international clients or in your international portfolios?
Our prime broker in New York loves this one because he sees it as a turnaround scenario. Really effectively what you're dealing here with a big European conglomerate. The management team in the last 3 or 4 years have slimmed it down a lot. They've offloaded quite a few business divisions, including the television operation as a matter of interest. What's in here is healthcare scanners and technology machines. If you go in to get scanned for, organ problems, they manufacture.
As you mentioned earlier, big healthcare focus for Philips, especially across Africa when it comes to Philips Africa.
Yeah, and then in addition to that, the light bulb business, which again people are very familiar with, they've done a lot of work, as Clive said, on LEDs, organic LEDs or OLEDs. So that's another big profit center because they can sell more expensive bulbs which people use to replace. And then don't forget the consumer electronics, so toothbrushes, electric shavers. I mean, I own a couple of those products, I'm happy to say.
Well, I'm glad you do.
Fabulous.
I'd be worried if you didn't own a couple of those products.
Because they last well, they're cheap, and they, I think, are a big profit line for them. And it's a lot of innovation in that space as well.
Clive, anything to add before we call this one hot or not?
I think it is hot. And the reason why I'm going to stick with the hot is because I think there's a lot more to do. They've got a research team that is very powerful. I think close to about 150 people that work just in the research team. So it tells you that the guys are serious about innovation. They're serious about the fourth revolution, industrial revolution, to make sure that they take advantage of that as well. You can see that start to think about things like vehicles that are just going to drive themselves. So they're really thinking forward, and so that you want to have them in your long-term plans.
What about the performance of this one?
Yeah, share price performance doesn't look all that great. It's been a bit up and down, and that's because they constantly sort of under development, and there's a bit of talk about whether or not they can sustain a recovery. The PE is quite high, but it's come down as earnings have grown, so it's a tough one. I'm going to call it hot because I like the medical devices business.
And the lighting element of this business.
But I think
the share price chart alone doesn't really give one much cause for optimism.
But let's the underlying strategy for this company is
of
exciting.
The portfolio,
A double hot for Philips.